Okay, so looking at the box office here, what I'm going to be doing from now on is instead of looking at the weekend returns, I'm going to look at the whole week. And I'm going to define the week as Monday to Sunday. So when a film opens, it will only be looking at the weekend because it won't open until Friday, right? But then when you have something like this week, with like Thanksgiving week, things are opening during, like a Wednesday. So, from now on, we're going to look at the weekly returns and you'll see those results accordingly. Another thing that I'm changing is in addition to the high and low projections, I'm going to give like my target of like what I personally think it's going to reach at a minimum. So let's take a look here. Huge Thanksgiving week and Thanksgiving weekend. Total domestic box office for the past week was $475-ish million, which was a 113% jump from the previous week. So hugely successful. Thanksgiving's always like a bigger box office point in the year. But from my understanding, this is one of the bigger ones that we've seen, especially post-COVID. And that's most exemplified by Moana 2 opening at number 1 for the week in its first frame, bringing in for the week over $225 million. So this is insane. So the number's a little misleading. So Box Office Mojo says that by the Sunday, it had been in theaters for 7 days, which isn't entirely true. It didn't actually show up in theaters until Wednesday, but I think it maybe had like a premiere or something on Monday, like last Monday. So Box Office Mojo is counting that as like 7 days, but really this is only for 5 days. So it's even more impressive than it looks. This is by far the biggest opening of the year. The previous biggest opening was Inside Out 2 at like $150 million. And then, of course, this is all domestic. And not only is this huge, it blew way past anyone's expectations, right? So the projections were around 130 to 175. I was thinking it was going to make around 157 maybe. So this is hugely beyond, I think, what anyone was expecting or even hoping for. And, I can admit when I was wrong. I think I was completely wrong about this because I kind of went into this, and I think this makes sense. So let me walk through my thinking, and then you tell me if I was silly to think this. So Disney has really struggled since even beyond Marvel, but since Avengers Endgame, right before COVID. It's really struggled, save for a few examples, most of them this year. It's really struggled to recapture that box office magic that it had for most of the 2010s, right? And that coupled with Moana 2 not getting particularly good reviews, like noticeably worse critical reception, on top of the original film did not open super huge either. It kind of became a mega franchise later through streaming and kids just watching it over and over, especially during the pandemic on Disney Plus. And also Disney has just been really struggling with this weekend over the past couple of years. If you look at Disney's past two animated films that came out, kind of like post-COVID, theaters are more or less back to where they were in terms of being open. What was it? Strange World in 2022 and then Wish last year in 2023 did not only not do huge gangbuster numbers that Disney was used to in the previous decade, but they were flops. Some of them were bombs, right? Hugely disappointing results. So I didn't think this was going to be a bomb, but I thought all of those factors would kind of hold it back to at least fall within the projections, right? So the fact that this has done so well, I think, is, a testament to the Moana brand, despite there not really being a lot to it. And if you think about it, a lot of the Disney brands, it is very underutilized or capitalized on, right? Like, it's not, at least with Frozen, there was the movie, but then there was all of this extra material, these books and these short films and all this stuff. And I'm sure Moana had some of that, but not to the degree of some of these other franchises. I mean, Tangled got like an entire multi-season animated series, right? So the fact that this has done so well is I think a surprise. Even if you weren't kind of maybe sort of rooting against it, right? And another element to this is notably the biggest films of the year are once again Disney. The top three, so this would be Moana 2 now, followed by Inside Out 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. And despite that last one not having a number in the title, I think it's telling and is, again, going to teach Disney the wrong lessons is, you know what, our problem wasn't shitty movies. Our problem was the fact they were new IP. So the way to make a shit ton of money is to put a number at the end of it and make it a sequel, spin-off, reboot, whatever you want to do. That it's not just tangentially related, the way like Pixar's Lightyear it was a spin-off of Toy Story, but it's very tangential to that franchise. The key here is to make direct spin-offs or direct sequels, ideally, to already established and successful properties. And again, it's paying dividends worldwide. It's made about almost $400 million worldwide of just $150 million budget. So if it's closed up shop today, it would already be profitable. But this is going to be a powerhouse. I hate to say it and I hate to see it, but this is going to perform very well into the next couple of weeks. Though maybe because I'm saying that, because I'm always wrong, it'll be the opposite. That perhaps it will have a huge drop-off because it's no longer the holiday weekend and families saw it once and they were done, and because it's not very good, families might go, well, if our kids really want to watch Moana, we'll just put on Moana at home. Like, we don't need to go see the new one. But anyway, that's number one here. Huge surprise. That's the only new movie in the top 10 for the week. So let's look at the films that are in their second weekends now. We have Wicked and Gladiator II, still obviously in the top 5. Wicked actually obviously had a 34% jump, right? Because now it has, like, instead of only being open for 3 days, now it's open. It was open for the entire week. Brought in about $151 million for the weekend. Dropped from first to second, though, in its second frame. But this is also just a huge powerhouse. If you look at the domestic total here, it's up. It's made more than Moana domestically, right? Though the fact they're so neck and neck doesn't speak to Wicked underperforming, but more so Moana overperforming, right? And worldwide, it's not that far behind Moana 2. It's right now it's around $360 million worldwide, also off of like $150 million budget. So I've been trying to write this review. I've just been busy because I've been traveling. My goal is not to give up on this review. I literally have the tab open right now. I wrote the introductory paragraph, so I'm gonna release my review soon, but it's just a phenomenal movie. It's like one of the best movies, not only of the year, but like of the best, like one of the best I've ever seen. So I hope it continues that the box office trend. Because frankly, again, it could be good counter programming to Moana, if Moana is maybe targeted more towards really young audiences in ways that maybe the first Moana wasn't. Whereas Wicked can be more of an antidote for more like tween girls and up, and adult men like myself. Also in its second week, dropping from second to third place, we got Gladiator 2. Again, also saw a little bump now that I'm kind of counting them by week as opposed to weekend, but it was only 3% jump, right? So it only brought in about $56 million for the weekend, for the week, which is about as much as it made in the opening weekend, right? So it kind of basically doubled its box office return, bringing it domestically to about $111 million, but worldwide 320. So this one is doing really, really well overseas. So whereas this is like only half of what something like Wicked and Moana 2 are doing domestically, it is right there almost neck and neck. It's still behind, but the gap is so much smaller. when you look at the worldwide numbers. Though, it was more expensive. It cost about $230 million, which I'm surprised. I've yet to see it. I keep scheduling to go see it and then having to cancel for various reasons. I would imagine a lot of that is going to salary, or not just actors, but maybe like Sir Ridley Scott's salary. Because again, it's like it is an action spectacle, but not. You would think something like Wicked would be more expensive, just all the VFX and stuff. So it's crossed that initial threshold. It is matched the budget, but ideally we want to see that doubled, right? Also continuing in its second weekend, holding its 6th place spot, was Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. This is kind of like the pseudo-Christian drama about the real-life theologian, a German theologian who helped the Allies during World War II, had about a 9% drop, made about $4.5 million for the weekend, or the week. I gotta get used to saying for the week. And again, that's basically what it made in its opening. So it more or less doubled its domestic share now, bringing it almost about $10 million, which I believe is also the same amount that it's made worldwide. Again, a film like this, I wasn't able to find budget numbers, but I can't imagine this was super expensive. So I think the fact that this is even in theaters, this screams not even streaming movie, but like direct to digital rental kind of movie. So I think at this point, any money it makes at the box office is just like extra little reverse dessert, right? It's like front loading that, and then it's just gonna make a shit ton of money, in relative terms, once it's available to buy or rent digitally. Also still in the top 5, really interesting, is still Red One. So Red One, it dropped from 3rd to 4th, but this is its 3rd weekend. Brought in about $23 million for the week, which was 11% jump. I'm guessing that we're seeing a lot of jumps this one week. Maybe this was like the wrong week to start this new way of me doing this, because I would imagine a lot of these movies had more of a bump than they would have, because of the holidays, right? Because this did have an 11% bump. So far domestically, it's made about 75-ish million. So it's had some okay legs going forward. And worldwide, it's made almost $150 million. But the key thing here, and kind of similar to Gladiator 2, is the budget. Look at that budget, $225 million. Where is that money going to? Clearly, the salaries for The Rock, for Chris Evans, and to a lesser extent, people like J.K. Simmons and Lucy Liu. So this is still firmly in the red. But the fact that it's been holding out is really interesting. Now, I don't know if this is going to double that budget in its theatrical run. I think this could play really well on streaming and digital rentals, but I'm going to predict, due to the fact that it is Christmassy, and it's kind of holding out way better than anyone thought, including myself, that I think there's a non-zero chance. I wouldn't put my money on it, but I think there is a non-zero chance that this does it does cross that 225 million worldwide. It kind of crosses that initial threshold. Considering how kind of underwhelming the film seems to be, based off of critical and audience reaction, this is definitely, way better than I think it has. It's doing way better than it has any right to be doing, right? Also, still in the top 5, holding its 5th place spot, we have The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, bringing in about $6.5 million for the week, which was a 16% bump. Similar kind of thing to Red One. This one has had actually much better legs than Red One has. It opened around 10 or 11 million, and so far it's made about 32 million. So it's not having this huge share of just the opening that's constituting its domestic box office. Worldwide is not that much more. I think it's maybe only made a couple $1,000, frankly. Worldwide, it's mostly the United States. But it was only made for $10 million, right? So contrasting that with Red One, this is already profitable. And again, I wonder if it will continue to not pull in a bunch of money, but at least hold, and not have huge drops through to Christmas and New Year, and kind of just squeeze out every last penny. And then this is something that will just play really well on streaming and rental for like the foreseeable, for the next couple of years, right? Looking at some other films of note, so if you look in the frames column, I'm going to do a little color coding here. So if it's been in the top 10, if it's in the top 10 and it's been out for 5 frames or more, so that'd be like a month or more, we're going to give it a green color. And if it's been in the top 10 for 2 months or more, we're going to give it a blue color. So looking here at the green, so we still have, again, a lot of movies that are just holding out. And I wonder if it just has to do with the state of the box office of like what films are being released. But we have like Venom: The Last Dance dropping from 4th to 7th. So it dropped out of the top 5, but still, doing its best. Made just a little over 4 million for the week, which was a 32% drop from the previous week. So far domestically, it's made around 138 million. Worldwide, it's made 468 million off of just a $120 million budget. So again, another example of a film that has done way better than I think it had any right to do. Just considering the poor reception to the film, even from people who liked those first 2 films, that it's just not as fun, at least in their eyes, right? So, again, another film that, and what we're seeing, you're kind of seeing in this top 10 like a tapestry of counter-programming, but everything is counter-programming each other. Like no film on here is like another. You know what I mean? Except maybe The Wild Robot with Moana 2. But again, if you really know about those films, like they're not very similar, but just the fact that they're like family animated films. And then maybe again, like you might have some crossover with Wicked and Moana 2 in terms of like the female audience, but again, I think that's also segmented or segregated, if you will, by age. Because if you look at something, so other films still here, A Real Pain actually jumping up from 11th to 9th place in its fifth frame. A Real Pain brought in just a little over $1 million. This is like an indie film. I think it's written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, also starring him along with Kieran Culkin, the brother of Macaulay Culkin. He's from Succession. Did have a drop, though, despite jumping, which is weird. It had about a 40% drop for the week. Worldwide, it's made about $7 million. So again, I don't have budget numbers, but I imagine this was probably a very, very cheap passion project to make, and it's holding, right? It's still here, it's still kicking. Similar with Conclave. This is a huge financial success, in my opinion. Dropped from 9th to 10th place in its 6th, weekend now, or 6th frame. Also just made a little over $1 million. Bigger drop, like a 54% drop. But look at the domestic multiple. So what this is telling us is that the opening numbers is just a small share. Less than a quarter of the total domestic return, which means that it's not having these massive drops week to week. Worldwide, it's made about $35 million off of a $20 million budget. So, still not quite profitable in the traditional sense, but the fact that it's done so well up to this point, I think is telling. And, we're starting to move into awards season, so I think if it could just kind of hold out until major nominations are announced, it'll get that awards bump that a lot of movies like this do, where once it's nominated for a Golden Globe or an Oscar, everyone's like, well, I want to go see the movie, and then it kind of has a big bump in its box office. But so it's huge week. Presumably we're gonna see a big drop next week when it's not the holiday weekend, but it's definitely a win that the domestic box office needed. And looking ahead to this upcoming weekend, we have a Bollywood kind of film, Pushpa 2, The Rule. I know nothing about the Pushpa franchise, but if it's anything like American films, putting the 2 at the end, if it's a sequel, it might do quite well. Right now it's projected to make around 5 to 8 million. I'm going to say that it's my target is around 7. That's where I would place my bet. But what the hell do I know, frankly? And then also we have Y2K, a indie film coming from Kyle Mooney, who is an SNL writer who's done a couple more kind of, quirky indie films. The premise is like, what if Y2K actually happened, like on New Year's going into 2000, like the world did like end, and like it was like became like this apocalypse, like technological like shutdown. We got Rachel Zegler here, and then the kid from It, and then the bigger kid is the kid from Hunt for the Wilder People, and then Deadpool 2. I think he's on Reservation Dogs, right? Maybe he's not. I don't know, but you know, it's not tracking to open super big. It's gotten decent reviews, but nothing great. It's projected to make around 3 to 8 million. I'm gonna put my money on 6. That's where I'm placing that bet, but maybe it'll fall even below the 3, just by nature of the fact that you have these huge black holes of money, right? You have Moana 2, Wicked 2, Wicked, Moana 2, Gladiator 2 to an extent, just sucking the money out of the box office. So, you know, there's a good chance that maybe this won't even meet those projections. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.